Hey, I'm Charla, and welcome back to The Working Writer, the channel that is all about empowering writers and creators to thrive. So I wanted to talk about pivoting because I'm currently in the process of pivoting. I feel a lot of writers and creatives are in the process of pivoting. So I kind of wanted to just talk to you about my experience of pivoting and ways that you can thrive during your pivot and not do it so scared like I've done it so many times. So I feel like a lot of people struggle with knowing when it's the right time to pivot. And from my personal experience, I know when it's time to pivot when I'm depressed. Depression to me is the sign that it is time to pivot, because nothing makes a bitch sadder than getting up for a job that she hates or waking up to a life that she cannot deal with. So I feel like when you are emotionally really triggered and troubled by your day-to-day, and a lot of it has to do around work, then it's like a really good sign that, hey, maybe it's time for me to at least start considering and making moves towards something else. So that's it. And then I also think like it's time to pivot when you recognize that your path no longer matches your needs or your circumstances. You know, like one example of that is I've met a lot of creatives who have had children who all of a sudden really care about stability and benefits and school district. Like their circumstances literally changed when previously their need was for novelty or for excitement or for creative expression. Their circumstances changed to them needing something with more stability and more security. So that's another really good sign that it might be time for you to pivot if your life is different and your needs are different. You're at a different stage in your life. Maybe you have parents to take care of. Maybe you have kids to take care of, and your career is no longer matching that. So that's legitimate, and that is totally a legitimate reason to start thinking about pivoting. And of course, for a lot of people, it's time to pivot when the actual industry is in a lot of turbulence and a lot of change, and you don't see a future for yourself there. For myself personally, I have started pivoting. I feel like I started pivoting like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, because I really started pivoting after I burned out. I had a really significant burnout in my television writing career, and it coincided with the pandemic. And I recognized that when the pandemic hit and all of my work stopped, it was the biggest feeling of relief to me. And that was really revealing, like that all of my work stopped and my first feeling was relief. It was like unburdening. It was that I could finally relax and take a break. Like I didn't realize how much I needed a break. And I also didn't realize how trapped I felt by my career, that I was too afraid to take a break, because it's a very feast or famine kind of industry where when you're working a lot, but there might be a period of time when you're not working a lot. I was constantly in survival mode of I need to be working a lot, and it made it so that I couldn't even listen to my body. I was like, body, shut up. You need to work. And then when I finally had a chance to take a break, I feel like my body kind of just collapsed, and it was really hard to imagine having that same level of stress again once I unloaded it, really. Like just the thought of having to go back into a situation where I have so many projects going, where I don't know what my next project is and blah, 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 whatever, all of the things that are going on in my mind that's creating a tremendous amount of stress. And not to mention my own boundaries that I didn't recognize that I didn't have. I didn't have boundaries around my time. It was honestly a real shit show. And it was really revealing to me about like how much I had changed over the last few years, how my needs and my circumstances had changed, and how my career was not necessarily fitting anymore. It was honestly really hard for me, frankly, because I think, especially as creatives, our identities are wrapped up in our career. Like, I am a comedy writer, I am a comedian. Like, that is who I am. Like, that's how much I'm ride or die for that, you know? And sometimes it can be really difficult to unravel ourselves from our work as creatives, and it's been a real process and a real journey for me to do that. But it's been a really important one, and it's been one that's really shown me what I actually do care about, and what I am willing to work towards, and what I'm not willing to work towards. For me personally, I started thinking about pivoting back in 2019 because I recognized that my body could not manage the level of stress that my life had created for me. That, you know, I had worked towards having so many projects at the same time, but it was just not sustainable for me. It just wasn't. And the thought of going back to that level of stress, like, literally like terrified me. And I was like, I need another career that is less stressful. I need a career that I feel like I have more control over. I still need to be creatively expressive. But I also need a career where I feel like I am helping people. See, this was another thing that I think really burned me out, was that like my values were no longer like in alignment with my career. Was because like people would always say, I would always say, I feel like my career, I'm not really like helping anybody. And people would always say, but you're a comedy writer. You're like making people laugh. Like, people need to laugh. And I guess I just don't think that that's a need. like I love that for people, and I do think people need to laugh, but maybe that's not personally something that I see as, you know, really necessary for the world. Like, I genuinely want to leave this place better than I found it. I genuinely want to help somebody else in a tangible way, because I can see with my eyes all of the deficiencies and everything that is missing in our society, you know, like the overwhelming poverty. Like, we're very aware and we can see all of the things that are bad in society. And personally, for me, making people laugh didn't feel like it was enough. I wanted to do more. So that was a really big thing for me, like recognizing that my career no longer was in alignment with my values. I really valued giving back to community, giving back to others, uplifting others, encouraging others. So what are your values? What really matters to you? You know, like, those things are really going to come in handy when you're making a pivot. What are you willing to do? Like, are you willing to go the entrepreneurship route, or would you like to find some sort of structural job out in the world? You know, like, are you wanting to go into a trade? Like, are you looking for more stability, more security, more time with family? Like, what are you literally looking for when it comes to your life? Because that's the other thing that a pivot provides, is that it provides you with the opportunity to do some designing of your life. You know, like, if you're going to do something that takes as much time and effort and energy as doing a career pivot, then you might as well do something that actually aligns with where you are in your life and what you want, you know? So that's really important when you're thinking about your pivot as well. I think another thing to keep in mind when it comes to your pivot is it's going to take a lot of time. Because I think what's going on while you're pivoting that a lot of people don't really think about is that you're becoming a different person as well. Because I feel like a lot of us are pivoting because we are recognizing that our careers are just not aligning with us anymore. And who is that person who is emerging, who's wanting this pivot? Because that's what happened to me. Like, when I was experiencing my burnout, like, I didn't recognize myself because this big truth had just been like revealed to me, which was that I was exhausted and that I could not handle the stress of that career, and that this career that I'd worked really hard for might not be the best thing for me. This was a lot to kind of like wrap my mind around, and like I didn't know who the person who was going to be making those different choices, making that those different career moves. I didn't know her yet. I was really getting to know her, and there's so much fear in the unknown of the future. But what I will say is that the more you trust yourself, the easier the process is going to be in general. The process of a pivot. And the way to trust yourself is to really give your wants and your needs a lot of consideration as you go through the process. Like, I had so much internal pushback when it came to the need to have a less stressful job, because I feel that, I don't know, I feel like a lot of like our culture is built around status and going after that kind of like high powered job. And I felt almost like I was like giving up. I felt like I was giving up, frankly. There was a lot of internal stuff going on, and just giving myself the way that I felt a lot of regard, giving my new needs a lot of regard, being very honest with myself about my motivations and why I'm doing certain things. Am I doing certain things because I think that's what I'm supposed to do, because I think it's like what the right thing to do, or am I doing it because I genuinely want to do it? Am I doing it because that's what I really, really want? So giving yourself a lot of regard, really walking on your own side, not being adversarial to your actual wants and needs, caring more about what others want, caring more about what you think you're supposed to do instead of what you really want. That's what builds that internal trust. That's what really like solidifies your intuition, your internal direction seeker. So really trust yourself as much as possible. Give yourself a lot of regard. It's what's going to make this process easier, because it's already a long-term difficult process. And just that's the last thing to really think about, is that this is like this is a years-long process potentially, depending on what you decide to do. It might involve going back to school, acquiring new skills. I've gone back to school and gotten a certificate in organizational coaching. It turned out to be something that I really was interested in. It was really cool. It was really fun. And that's another thing, like, you're gonna know if the pivot is in the right direction based off of how excited are you about these things? Like, how much do you want to do these things? Does it feel like a burden, or does it feel like you're going in the right direction? So I would say that, like, whether you decide to pivot, whether you decide to stay the course, it doesn't matter. Everything you're doing is just going to take time, and it's also going to take a lot of self-trust. So I hope this was helpful. Until next time, get out there, get to work.